We are delighted to welcome you to our channel. Today's topic is about adrenaline, the burst of all sorts of emotions, competitive spirit, speed, and a passionate desire to win. Today, we are going to talk about F1 practice sessions, so please fasten your seatbelts. We're setting off on a journey that might take your breath away. A Formula One Grand Prix is a sporting event that takes place over 3 days. It consists of two 90-minute practice sessions on Friday, a 90-minute practice session on Friday afternoon, and a qualifying session on Saturday afternoon, preparing the way for the Grand Prix on Sunday. The 1-hour qualifying shootout determines the starting order for Sunday's race, and is divided into 3 sessions. If you're not a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed fan of F1, you can actually miss the practice session, and it would be fair enough. For those who don't understand what's going on behind the scenes, the preparation might seem quite dull. At first glance, these sessions are just some random runnings with almost no fan around, and the teams discussing some strange things. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty details, you start realizing that practice sessions are the most valuable time throughout the weekend that allows the teams and the competitors to optimize their cars to the maximum and set them up according to the specifications of each racetrack. Yes, this time is the most useful time to triple your chances of winning or making them outside. So, what exactly happens in these practice sessions? Well, all practice sessions begin with a fire-up and shakedown in the garage. During this time, a host of reliability parameters are examined to pin down any faulty components on the car before being stated, functional, and ready to run. The engineers do their best to check the data from different systems on the vehicle, such as electronics, pressures, temperatures, and fuel flows to confirm everything is switched on and ready to hit the track. After finishing the shakedown, the car leaves the pits to perform an installation lap. This is where the driver takes the car out on the track for a lap to try out its functions, such as throttle, brakes, and steering, before moving back to the pits without crossing the finish line. At this time, engineers on the pit wall will ask their driver to perform various practical procedures to ensure that all systems and sensors are ready for a full free practice. And that's when the most delicious part starts. The first session, called Practice 1, runs from 10 to 11:30 a.m. During it, a baseline setup is determined by using data from previous visits to the track and simulated data from the factory as a reference point for testing car performance. Setup styles depend on the characteristics of the track: low downforce, Monza, versus high downforce, Monaco; fast corners, Istanbul Park, versus slow corners, Hungaroring; flowing S's, Silverstone, versus sharp chicanes and hairpins, Canada. After finishing the setup, a team might want to accomplish component testing. It might use and replace various springs and dampers on the cars, while also analyzing the performance corresponding to these changes. Engineers work on fine-tuning and optimizing the car's handling characteristics with real-time feedback from the driver, while optimizing mechanical and aerodynamic grip, gearing, adjusting aero balance, spring rates, dampers, spring bias, documenting temperatures, tire and fuel pressures, and so on. The second session, called Practice 2, runs from 2 to 3:30 p.m. During it, the team carry a heavy fuel load and pay careful attention to the reliability and durability of their cars. The cars stay on track for more extended periods, putting in very similar and consistent lap times, while the engineers observe car performance and tire degradation. And the third session, called Practice 3, takes place on Saturday from 11 to 12. It is generally used as a practice for qualifying and is divided into 3 main sessions. In the first phase of qualifying, called Q1, all the drivers have 18 minutes to go out on the track and set their fastest times. At the end of that phase, the slowest 6 cars are eliminated, and the remaining 18 cars go through to the next stage. The times of the remaining vehicles are deleted, and the same thing happens again in a 15-minute session called Q2. This part of qualifying is particularly interesting because all of the cars start the race on the tires that they set their best time on during this session. At the end of Q2, another 6 cars are eliminated, and the fastest cars go through to the top 10 shootout. Finally, the drivers go head-to-head in another 12-minute session called Q3. Usually, each car will try to set 2 fastest laps. The fastest car gets pole position, the first place on the starting grid. Then, the cars line up on the grid in order of fastest qualifying times from 11 to 22. You may hear some of the drivers say that qualifying is the most exciting part of their race weekend, because it's when they can really stretch the car's legs and see how fast it can go. It's such an adrenaline rush for the drivers and fans because the car's laps have to be perfect, and they are going to be as fast as they can get it to go to try and get as high up on the starting grid as possible. To go faster, everything needs to be lighter. Thus, in this session, the fuel load is as light as possible. The teams use the softest tire compound, mechanical components are at their lightest and most performance focused, and the engine is running on the highest power mode. Of course, things might not go according to the plan. In such cases, if the car lacks the pace to fight for pole and reliability is a concern, the team's engineers might run fewer qualifying simulations and opt for more long runs to verify the car can finish the Grand Prix. F1 practice rules are also very specific and interesting. A driver can't participate in a race without taking part in at least one practice session, so it's crucial they arrive for practice. Formula One is a unique sport because drivers can't practice at home. They can't just get in an F1 car and take it out for a spin. So in order to save money, testing in between the races is strictly limited. As a result, practice sessions are essential for the drivers to find their rhythm. You'll hear them talking about adjusting their setup or finding the balance. This is all about them feeling comfortable in their cars and getting the most performance out of it during qualifying and races. Another reason why practice sessions are important in F1 is that it allows the team to test any new bits and pieces they've created at their factories and now want to try out on the cars to see if the new part makes the car go faster. For instance, you can observe teams carrying out trials on new front wings during practice to see whether they help or not. We truly hope this video helped you take a more in-depth look at F1 practice sessions and better understand everything that happens there behind the scenes. Thank you so much for watching and stay safe. What was the most interesting thing that you learned from today's video? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed the content or learned anything new, then a like will be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.